So, sitting here in the relative quiet of defeat, still sporting my Bruins gear. They were up by 2, and they blew it. And they blew it badly. I didn't watch anything after it was 3-3 because I was pissed. As soon as that tying goal went in, I was like, you guys let this get away, you're done. So it brought to mind comebacks. Because today was a chance for Boston to basically wipe out Ottawa's hopes, and instead, Ottawa's got new life, and all Ottawa has to do is win 1 out of the next 2 in Boston, and they can do that. And then we're in for a 6 or 7 game series. Based on what I saw today, Boston's in trouble. They're definitely in trouble. But let's look back. The series comeback, the momentum shifts which have seemingly haunted my playoff experience, because usually teams that I cheer for don't have the momentum shifts in their favor. Let's just look back through history on this. So, a 3-0 series comeback happened in 1942. The Toronto Maple Leafs beat Detroit, and no, I was not alive for that. 1975, the New York Islanders came back from 3-0 down against the Pittsburgh Penguins in what foretold a dynasty to be in Nassau. No, I did not watch that series either. I was 2. In 1987, a 3-1 series lead by the Toronto Maple Leafs was wasted, and the Detroit Red Wings won that series. And it was a division final, and I remember that was the year I was like, wow, maybe Detroit's going to be something. And then they got wiped out in the conference final, and I just said, never mind. Nope. 1988, the Washington Capitals came back from 3-1 down against the Flyers. That was the first round matchup. 1989, the LA Kings came back from 3-1 down against the Edmonton Oilers. Oilers defending Stanley Cup champions at the time, as I remember. And the Kings had this Gretzky guy. It didn't look good at that point. There was, with the Kings, a lot of thought put into the idea that maybe the Kings were going to become a dynasty after they got Gretz. It didn't happen, but their playoff success got better with Gretzky to some extent. They had the final run in 93, but outside of that, it was pretty unspectacular. In 1990, the Winnipeg Jets had a 3-1 series lead on the Edmonton Oilers and let their foot up off the gas, and the Oilers beat them. Just think about that. The Oilers won the Cup that year. The Jets had a 3-1 series lead. If the Jets had won that series, how far could they have gone? So, that's a thought. 1991, the Detroit Red Wings blow a 3-1 series lead against the St. Louis Blues. This was around the time that there was a lot of talk about how the Wings choked in the playoffs. And it was valid at the time. It became severely invalid years later. But it kind of became a whole thing with them. Speaking of a thing about choking in the playoffs, the 1992 Washington Capitals choked away a 3-1 series lead against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Keep that in mind. 1992, the Minnesota North Stars choked away a 3-1 series lead on the Detroit Red Wings. And it was interesting, too, because Minnesota was coming off of a Stanley Cup final appearance, and they blew that lead, and it was a first-rounder. Also in 1992, the Winnipeg Jets blew a 3-1 series lead on the Vancouver Canucks. The Jets didn't find a 3-1 series lead. They didn't find an ability to blow, apparently. And I remember, even though the Canucks were down 3-1 that year, I still didn't worry. And once the Canucks won Game 5, I was like, yeah, we got this. I wasn't worried because it was Winnipeg. 1994, the Calgary Flames blew a 3-1 series lead against the Vancouver Canucks. Famously blew a 3-1 series lead against the Canucks. I remember going into Game 7 thinking, well, at least the Canucks forced a Game 7, and then they won it. And I went nuts. 1995, the Washington Capitals blew a 3-1 series lead against the Pittsburgh Penguins. This was when I started to get angry and started to become disenfranchised as a Capitals fan, because I got tired of them blowing leads. I was like, all right, Washington's going to... No, they're not. 1998, the Colorado Avalanche blew a 3-1 series lead over the Edmonton Oilers. So that was a problem. I really had wanted Edmonton out that year, but I wasn't a Colorado fan either, so my emotions weren't swayed like they were today. The Phoenix Coyotes in 1999 proved that they were still the Winnipeg Jets by blowing a 3-1 series lead over the St. Louis Blues. The St. Louis Blues being a team that doesn't exactly have a huge history in the playoffs of being great, but it happened. 2000, the Philadelphia Flyers blew a 3-1 series lead over the New Jersey Devils in the conference final, and New Jersey went on to win the Stanley Cup. So that probably still hurts Flyers fans today, and I'm kind of sorry for bringing it up. 2003, the Vancouver Canucks blew a 3-1 series lead against the Minnesota Wild, and oh boy. I remember I had an argument with my ex that day because going into Game 7, I said the Canucks are done. She's like, well, there's still one more game. I'm like, they're done. They had a chance. They were up 3-1. They blew it in Game 5. Game 6, they didn't show up. They're done. And it was an argument back and forth. She watched Game 7. I played on the computer. I think I might have played SimCity. I don't remember. I didn't pay any attention because I knew they weren't going to make it. Then the Minnesota Wild did it again in the next round, that same season, to the Colorado Avalanche. Or no, they had done it the previous round to the Colorado Avalanche. This is showing it in the wrong order. In the first round, Minnesota come up from 3-1 down against Colorado, and then in the second round, they did it to the Canucks. So Minnesota were the cardiac kids that year. Also in 2003, the Vancouver Canucks in that first round had come back from 3-1 down against St. Louis. So the Canucks did it the first round, which I knew was coming because that was when Bertuzzi was wearing down Pronger. And Pronger, you could tell, was getting nervous about Bertuzzi and backing away from the puck. And then in the second round, the Canucks had it happen to them. It was a wacky first round and second round that year. 2004, the Boston Bruins lost a 3-1 series lead on the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah. 2009, the New York Rangers lost a 3-1 series lead on the Washington Capitals. And there was some thought in my mind at that point, maybe Washington's going to stop blowing it in the playoffs, and then they lost in the next round, so it was fine. 2010, the Washington Capitals blew a 3-1 series lead against the Montreal Canadiens. And Montreal fans wonder why I don't like Montreal. They wonder, like, why don't you like Montreal? I don't like Montreal. I'm never going to like Montreal. Also in 2010, the Boston Bruins blew a 3-0 series lead on the Philadelphia Flyers. All the humiliation of that one. Within 6 years of them blowing it against Montreal, I have to watch them blow it again, this time against Philly. 2011, the Pittsburgh Penguins blew it against the Tampa Bay Lightning. They've been up 3-1. In 2013, the Detroit Red Wings had a 3-1 series lead on Chicago. Couldn't close it out. And turns out Chicago was a pretty good team, and they made it to the Stanley Cup that year. 2014, the Pittsburgh Penguins blew a 3-1 series lead to the New York Rangers. And also in 2014, the San Jose Sharks blew a 3-0 series lead on the LA Kings. 2015, the Washington Capitals became the Capitals again as they blew a 3-1 series lead, this time over the Rangers. They must have felt bad that the Rangers had suffered that fate, and they decided to make it up to them, which I think is nice. I think it's nice when you feel bad for your enemies. And that's what I felt like Boston did today. Felt like they felt bad. Oh, Ottawa's down. Clearly, Karlsson's hurt. And Karlsson is hurt. He's playing at about 50% right now. And rather than take advantage, Boston let up. They let up, didn't they? They did. So, those are momentum shifts. And those are just the 3-1 and 3-0 series lead that got blown. So, you know, for Boston today, by losing that game that they had after the third, that's a 2-0 or 2-goal lead going into the third. By losing that game, they're in trouble. For the Senators, they get new life. And Phaneuf getting the goal in overtime is poetic in that I still keep hearing people talk about what a pylon he is and how much he sucks. I don't see it. I think it's his price tag. I think it's the amount of money he makes. So people go, well, he gets paid X amount of money. He should be this kind of player. Phaneuf's fine. And if Carlson's hurt, Phaneuf has to step up. And maybe this is the start of it. So I do not dislike Ottawa. I want to make that clear. We're 2 games into a series. I do not dislike the Ottawa Senators. I don't hate the Senators. I don't get mad when they win. I get mad that the Bruins blew a chance. They had a chance and they blew it. So let me know in the comment section below about losses that you've seen teams suffer. And if you're a Canuck fan, we can all remember Chicago and Chicago and Chicago numerous times against Chicago. It goes back to the 90s when the Canucks started blowing it against Chicago. And even though in 2011 they came out and won that, they made a series out of what shouldn't have been a series. So let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And I will be talking more hockey as we get into tonight's games. Thanks for watching.